Listen, I know your secret. You check your bank account 5 times a day, and every single time hope that money appeared there that you don't remember saving. You see how your friends are buying apartments, driving cool cars, flying to Bali, and it seems to you that they're somehow different, that they have something you don't. Maybe they just earn more, or maybe they have some financial code that you don't know about. Well, today, I'm going to tell you the truth that will shock you so much that you won't want to turn off this video until the end. I'll break down real numbers that show where a typical person actually stands with their money. Some of these numbers will make you breathe a sigh of relief. Others will knock you out completely. But most importantly, after this video, you'll know for sure whether you're ahead of the crowd or falling behind. And most importantly, you'll understand how to fix it. This is Clarence Capital. If you want to start earning better and understand why you spend money on unnecessary things, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video because this content can really change your relationship with money. Let's start with something most people don't even imagine. They think everyone around them is fine, that everyone is saving money, that everyone is preparing for retirement, that everyone simply lives better than them. In reality, it's an illusion that society lives in. We often assume that everyone else knows something about money that we don't, that they somehow magically understand where to spend every dollar so they won't regret it later. But the actual reality is completely different. When you understand what's really happening with ordinary people's finances, suddenly it becomes much easier to make decisions about your own money. It's like getting a manual for a game you've been playing blind. Imagine you want to lose weight. You'd want to know how much the average person weighs, right? Or if you're in school and want to improve your grades, you'd want to understand where your classmates stand academically. Money works exactly the same way. When you see where other people stand financially, you can understand whether you're making the right decisions with your earnings. Let's start with the most obvious thing. Every working person receives a salary. When you put money in your account, are you earning more or less than everyone else? Here's what fresh data shows. The typical full-time worker gets a little over $1,000 per week. This means that in a year, he earns roughly $52,000 before the government takes its cut. Now, here's an important point. We're talking about personal income, not family income, where both spouses work. Median means that half of people earn more, half earn less. It's right in the middle. If your hourly rate is around $26 per hour, then you're just an average worker. But here's where the interesting part starts. Those $52,000 is before taxes. As soon as the government takes federal taxes, regional taxes, pension contributions, and insurance, this number shrinks dramatically. Depending on where you live, you might take home somewhere between $35,000 and $40,000. Suddenly, it doesn't seem quite so rich, right? But salary is only part of the puzzle. The most interesting part begins when we look at what people do with this money after they earn it. And here's where the real surprise starts. Retirement savings is something that should make every person think. Here's a number that can be shocking. The average American saved $65,000 for retirement. Wait, before you start thinking that's good or bad, remember the main thing. This is the average for all people who actually have retirement accounts. And you know what's the craziest part? 1/4 of all people don't have a retirement account at all. 0. This means that 1 out of every 4 people you talk to is planning to live on government benefits in old age and hoping they'll even get them. For those who do have money, the numbers vary depending on age, and some are scary. Young people under 25 have saved less than $2,000. Listen, if you're 23 and already have 2,000, that's not so bad, but it shows how critical it is to start early. People from 25 to 34 saved around 14,000. This doesn't even seem real for people who've been working for so many years. When we get to elderly people, over 65, they've already accumulated around 88,000. Sounds good? Wait. If you retire with 88,000 and follow the 4% rule, then a year you can spend only 3,500. That's less than $300 a month. Stop. $300 a month. Imagine that. You worked 40 years, you're tired, you retired, and you have $300 a month. That won't even cover groceries, let alone electricity, medicine, and everything else. If you're 20, 30, or 40 years old and you see these numbers, you need a serious conversation with yourself right now. Let's talk about government benefits. Since so many people rely on them, what do they actually give you? The average benefit is around $1,500 a month, $18,500 a year. Listen, that sounds kind of normal if you don't have a mortgage. But remember, this is an average figure. If at some point you didn't work or earned very little, your payment will be much lower. There are people who get almost nothing at all. But there's another approach. Some people plan their retirement assuming they won't get a single penny from the government. All benefits are considered a bonus. This might sound paranoid, but considering the state of the system, it makes perfect sense. Now let's look at what affects you right now. Your spending. How much does a typical family actually spend each month? Statistics show that the average household spends around $5,500 a month. Over a year, that's $67,000. Wait and realize this. If a family spends that much a year, then they need to earn at least that much to not go into debt. And we're talking about money after taxes. If you want to not just survive, but accumulate, invest, and build wealth, then you need to earn much more than $70,000 a year. This entire amount is distributed into understandable categories, but the numbers in them will surprise you. The most goes to housing. This is unsurprising for anyone who's ever paid rent or a mortgage. Around $2,000 a month. This includes housing payment, property taxes, insurance, electricity, water, repairs. $2,000 a month is $22,000 a year just to have a roof over your head. And if you live in a big city, you're probably laughing because $2,000 is nothing. Food is the second biggest expense. A family spends around $700 a month on groceries and restaurants. $8,000 a year just on food. If you spend less than $700, then you're either young and living with your parents, or you're a serious master of saving. Transportation requires around $900 a month. That's car, insurance, gas, repairs, public transit. Almost $11,000 a year just to get from place to place. Financial experts say that housing and transportation together shouldn't be more than half your income. If you add $2,000 for housing and $900 for transportation, that's already $2,500 a month. And we haven't bought anything yet. We haven't eaten at a restaurant. We haven't gone to the movies. Now let's talk about something that can determine your future. Credit history. Almost everyone knows that credit rating is important, but not everyone understands where they stand. The average rating in the country is 715. That's pretty good. Ratings go from 300 to 850. 715 is already in the normal zone. This means that many people are doing something right. They pay bills on time and keep debts under control. But don't think everyone understands this. A lot of people walk around with a rating of 500, 600, and don't understand why nobody gives them credit normally. Your rating is everything. From mortgage rates to auto loan conditions, even some employers look at this before hiring. Good news. To keep a good rating, you don't need to be a genius. Pay on time. Don't max out your credit cards. Don't open new cards every time you want a discount at a store. That's it. But somehow, a huge part of people don't get this. Now to the most painful question. Credit card debt. Here's where real horror is. The average household owes $9,000 on cards. This isn't an auto loan, not a mortgage where you're buying something valuable. These are $9,000 on things that are now lying somewhere in a closet or already thrown away. And the craziest thing is the interest on these cards. 15, 20, 25% and higher. If you're paying 20% on $9,000 in debt, then a year, you're just throwing away $1,800 just in interest. Money that could be working for you goes into the pocket of credit companies. The most outrageous thing about credit card debt is where it comes from. Most of it isn't emergencies, it's just purchases. Clothes, gadgets, restaurant dinners, online shopping, impulse decisions that seem like a cool idea at 3 in the morning. The solution is simple. Pay off your card in full every month. If you can't afford to buy with cash, don't go into debt unless it's an emergency. And if you're already in debt, this should be your number one priority. Forget about investing. Get rid of this first. Let's talk about the number that best shows your financial health. Net worth. This is what you have minus what you owe. Sum up your house, cars, bank accounts, retirement accounts. Then subtract your mortgage, credit cards, debts. What's left is your net worth. The typical household has around $122,000 in net worth. But like before, this number varies wildly depending on age. People under 35 have less than $14,000 in net worth. If you're 25, that's not so bad. But if you're 34 and still at $14,000, then you have serious problems. The group from 35 to 44 has $91,000. From 45 to 54, it's $168. From 55 to 64, it's $212. From 65 to 74, it's $266. You know what's amazing? It's all quite achievable. You don't need to be a genius on the stock market or create the next Google. You just need to regularly spend less than you earn and invest the difference. But there's one more point we need to discuss. How much do people actually save? How much of their income does the average person actually set aside? Data shows that Americans save roughly 6% of their after-tax income. 6. That doesn't seem terrible, but wait. If you're only saving 6%, and part of that goes to current goals, like a car or a down payment on a house, then for long-term wealth, there's almost nothing left. Think about it. A down payment on a house is on average $62,000. A kitchen renovation is $26,000. A new car is $47,000. If you're only saving 6% and you need all this, how much actually goes into retirement accounts? Experts say save at least 10–15% specifically for retirement, and that's on top of everything else you're saving. If you want to retire at 45, you need to save much more. This brings us to an interesting question. What age do people actually retire at? If you think about it, you'd say 65. You're close, but not quite. Actually, the average retirement age in the country is 61. Sounds okay? Who wouldn't want to rest at 61? But there's a catch. Full government benefits you'll start getting at 67. If you retire at 61, then you have 6 years you need to somehow get through. And if your savings look like those median numbers, those 6 years will be very tough. Look at it this way. If you started working at 22 and retired at 61, then you worked 39 years. That's almost 4 decades of waking up early, commuting to work, listening to your boss, sitting in meetings, earning money. And after all that, you retire with $88,000, from which you can spend $300 a month. Is that fair? Doesn't that seem insane to you? But wait, it gets even more dramatic. Statistics say that if you made it to 65, you'll live another 21 years. If you retired at 61, you might have 25 years of retirement. 25 years! That's longer than most people work until 40. And here's the question that should torture you at night. How many of those 25 years will you actually be able to enjoy life instead of suffering from illness? At 61, you might still be okay, but at 71, at 81, time has a funny way of catching up with all of us. What you could do at 65, you can't handle at 75. That's why all these numbers matter so much. It's not just curiosity. It's understanding that the usual approach to money doesn't work. When the typical person has less than $90,000 for retirement and at the same time owes $9,000 on cards, something went wrong. But here's the good news, and that's why I wanted to tell you all this. Once you understand what it means to be average, it becomes clear how to be above average. And being above average doesn't require magic formulas or secret knowledge that only rich people have. If you save more than 6%, you're already ahead of most people. If you don't have credit card debt, you're way ahead. If you know what you're investing in and regularly put money into retirement accounts, you're already outrunning competitors. The truth is that most of these statistics are easy to beat with normal financial discipline. You don't need a 7-figure salary. You don't need an inheritance from a rich relative. You just need to be more careful with your money than the average person. And honestly, the bar there is low. Think about it this way. If the average household spends $5,500 a month, and you figure out how to live comfortably on $4,500, then you freed up $12,000 a year to save. Do that consistently for a few decades, and you'll be in a completely different league than most people. Apply this to all these numbers. Earn a bit more than $52,000. Save more than 6%. Avoid debt. Invest in cheap index funds. And you'll retire with an amount many times more than $88,000. What seems most interesting to me is how these numbers show the gap between what people say they want and what they actually do. Everyone says they want financial security. Everyone says they want a comfortable retirement. Everyone says they want to sleep peacefully and not think about money. But the behavior of the average person doesn't match these goals. Maybe the reason is that people don't know what average even is. Maybe they think everyone around them is somehow managing, so they're not rushing to change. Or maybe they know they should do better, but they don't know where to start. Or they think it's already too late. If you're watching this video and some of these numbers scared you, don't panic. The very fact that you're here, that you're learning and trying to understand your finances, already puts you ahead of most people. Most people don't even tackle this question. They live how they live. The key is to use these numbers as motivation, not as a reason to give up. If you're 35 and have $14,000 in net worth, that doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you have work to do, but you have 30 years to fix it. And if you're already better than these average numbers in some areas, don't stop. Maybe you have a great credit score and no debt, but your retirement savings are lagging. Maybe you're good at saving, but you keep it all in a regular account that brings 0% instead of investing. The main thing here is this. These financial statistics should open your eyes and inspire you. When you see what's considered normal, you can choose to be normal or better. I think you deserve better than retiring at 61 with $88,000 and hoping the government doesn't forget about pensioners. You deserve to not have debt and not live paycheck to paycheck. You deserve the peace of mind that comes with having your finances in order. These numbers show where most people end up, but they don't have to define where you end up. Use them as a starting point, not a finish line. Because once you understand what most people do with their money, it becomes clear how to do something completely different and get much better results. The choice is yours. That was your friend Clarence Capital. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Check out the next video, $500 monthly. How this simple decision creates $3.16 million in 40 years. Take care of yourself, your finances, and most importantly, your time. Good luck.